So welcome to an Out to Lunch webinar from the ESIP Education Committee, that's the Earth Science Information Partners. We hold these Wednesdays, noon Central Time, and basically this spring, winter, and into the early summer, we'll be holding them every other Wednesday rather than every week like we did in late fall. Most of you are probably familiar with Zoom, but when we're done, we'll have 5 minutes for Q&A. And at that time, if you want to unmute yourself or show your face, that's perfectly fine. Right now, well, when we have lots of people, we're worried sometimes about bandwidth. So we actually encourage people to turn off their videos and unmute. Okay, Mercantile Advance. There we go. So in this webinar series, these are 10-minute demonstrations of Earth Science data tools and resources with 5 minutes after for Q&A. You can find our past presentations at our wiki page of Education Out to Lunch, or you can find the individual recordings on our YouTube playlist. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Anne Scott, who is our presenter today, and allow her to introduce herself and share.
All right, thanks, Carla. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Let me know when you can see it, please.
Oh, we're good.
We're good. All right. Well, hi, welcome everybody. I'm very excited to be here with you today. My name is Annie Scott, and I'm with USGS Youth and Education and Science Program. And so in this virtual environment, we have a new opportunity to look at Earth science features in perhaps a new way, and hopefully pull in some creativity for your students as well. This activity can be done in a classroom if you're back in school, or even outside, or even in your home. And so for those of you who are still in the virtual school environment, this is something that you can definitely have your students do, just even from their bedroom or their living room or anywhere in their house. So let's see. All right. Hopefully this will advance here. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. All right, so the Find a Feature Challenge is really designed for elementary students, but can be definitely used with older students as well. Basically, anyone who has a phone or a camera and a little creativity. This is a very low-tech type of challenge, and we really wanted to be able to make it accessible to anyone, regardless of where you live. With that said, on our website, we have mini lessons and examples of several Find a Feature challenges. And the idea is to take any geologic or ecologic feature and to be able to find something near you that reminds you of that feature, so that when you're learning about something, you can actually see it in your own life as well. Depending on where you live, you may or may not have a real life example of one of these features near you. So it's another way to sort of bring something that's outside into your life. You can find these challenges at our website, which is part of the Youth and Education and Science website, and that's at usgs.gov/findafeature. How to play is to go ahead and to take a picture of something that you observe near you, and you can share it by tagging us on social media at USGS_yes on Instagram or Twitter. We actually prefer Twitter for this challenge because we found that we can't see many of the hashtags if people post on a private Instagram account. So the advantage of sharing that with Twitter is it's a quick share, and we can see those images right away. If you're not on social media, you can also email these photos to us at USGS_yes@USGS.gov. All right, so I'm gonna ask you to take a look at these photos here of rock arches. So on the left, we have Delicate Arch in Arches National Park. Also in Arches National Park on the right, Landscape Arch. and Rockbridge State Park in Missouri in the middle. Now, you may live nowhere near Utah or nowhere near Missouri and have never seen a natural stone arch, but it's a very common, not very common, it's a very strong feature that occurs due to erosion. And so what I would like you to do for a second is to go ahead and look around you, literally right now, to see if you have anything in your home that, or your office or your school that may look like an arch. I'm just going to give you a second to look here. Feel free to grab it if you want. You can show me at the end. Okay, well, here are a few examples. We actually launched this at NSTA in St. Louis. So we started with an arch since we knew we'd see at least one example of an arch there. But we've also seen arches in building or architecture, such as at Mount Vernon, or even a child doing an arch. And so it's one of those shapes that you can find and then go back to your lesson on arch formation and talk to your students about how those actually form. Okay, the next one is layers or strata. So perhaps you're teaching about sedimentary rocks. You're talking about original horizontality and how sediments are deposited in flat layers. Perhaps you're talking about the law of superposition, which is oldest on the bottom and youngest on the top. And you're starting to introduce your students to the principles of stratigraphy. So one way to challenge them to think about this in their own lives is to, again, find an analogy. Find something in their everyday lives that's going to remind them of that concept. They can maybe teach their parents or their siblings about that concept, even if they're not at an outcrop. So again, I challenge you, look around and maybe you'll see right now in front of you something that reminds you of that. Here are some that can easily be found in a home. Layers is one of my favorites. It's really easy to find. So perhaps that's in your blinds on your window, or a stack of items and books on a table, or perhaps a chocolate cake, or perhaps your dishes in your cabinet. And easily by looking at that, you can tell a couple of things. Of course, that the first plate on the bottom was put down first, and that the bowl was placed on top last. So you can also start talking with your students about sequence of events. They can infer then, just by looking at something like this, what the order of events was, which one was placed down first. Perhaps they could also find layers of different types of stratigraphy, perhaps different geologic units by looking at their clothing or a hat, or perhaps at stairs. Which step do they go onto first? All right, another example of a find a feature challenge is vesicles. So in geology, vesicles, of course, are the holes that are left behind as gas escapes from a lava as it's cooling. So if your students are looking at extrusive igneous textures and they want to learn about the cooling history of that lava, they can look at those they can look at the vesicles to learn more about that cooling history. So again, take a look around you. Can you find anything just by looking around your classroom or your office or your living room that might look like vesicles? What's something that might remind you of that to help reinforce these things that you're learning in the classroom? Here are a few that I've found to include a loaf of bread. You can see that the gas escaped during the baking process of that bread and the holes are left behind. An active process of degassing in a soda or in a latte, or perhaps something that just reminds you of that, such as a piece of clothing, in this case, a shirt that happens to have lots of little things on it that look like vesicles. Another example of one of our find a feature challenges is red rocks. And so we did this activity for find a feature when we were focusing on the 150th anniversary of the Powell expedition in 2019. And in the desert Southwest, there are a lot of sedimentary layers where you can see the oxidation of iron within the minerals in those sedimentary rocks. So if that's something that you happen to be studying in your classroom as you're looking at sedimentary units, you could challenge your students to find something around them that also has that same process, or perhaps even just that same color. So looking at the oxidation of iron, you may see that in building stones, perhaps in a rusting storage shed, or again, maybe even in clothing. It's a fun way to be able to kind of get your students to think outside the box a little bit. And so again, reinforcing the concepts that they're learning about just your standard geologic or ecologic features. Okay, what about fossil? So there are of course many types of fossils, and you can have a lot of fun with this one as well. For this particular one, I chose an ammonite. And so again, this is a very common shape in nature. And in taking a look at this, what is something around you that may remind you of this shape? And then if you want to, of course, you could go into the detail of the marine invertebrates and how they use those gas chambers to maintain buoyancy within the water column. But just on a very basic level, what are the things that look like something else so that we can get that analogy? So do take a second and look around you. What do you see? And the other day at breakfast, I found this one. Okay, so it may seem silly, but it actually is a really fun tool to be able to engage your students. Perhaps you could use this as your engage piece, or perhaps as an extension on something that you're already discussing within your classroom to try to get kids to see that science is everywhere. All right, again, this is our website. This is usgs.gov/find-a-feature. And on that website, you'll see some of the other examples. And so examples that are currently on our page, which I did not discuss today, include conifer, which is our first ecologic challenge. Also water clarity, glacier, moon. We did that for the anniversary of the Apollo landing back in 2019 as well. Meander, river, and confluence. So perhaps you are out in traffic and you're seeing two lanes of traffic merge, and that may very well remind you of a confluence of two rivers. All right, so take a look around and share what you see. I'd love your questions and love your additional ideas for further find a feature photo challenges. And just remember, science is everywhere. Thank you, Carla. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. So at this time, if anyone has any questions, as I said, we're small enough, you can just speak, I think. I should be able to unmute. Maybe you may have to unmute yourselves if you want to speak, or you can put information in the chat as well. I noticed that Alyssa made a comment that she's absolutely loving this.
Yeah, I just really like this because students can do this so easily from their homes. And so these are things that I can add in so easily and quickly to connect them to the science, but they can do it whether they're in my classroom or they're remote that day.
Right. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, that's really the goal. We really want it to be something that you can do, even if you never get to see these features in real life. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Anybody have an idea or something they found while I was talking that reminded them of one of these features?
I have a question.
Yeah,
how often do you change what the challenge is?
That's a very good question. I would say periodically. We had a goal to do it monthly and it's fallen behind a little bit, but periodically. But you can, we always do promote them on social media when we have a new one out.
And you can access the old ones too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's still online at the website that I listed there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure, you're so welcome.
Annie, about how many do you think you have right now already?
Yeah, let's see. Let me go back to that slide, which was just a screenshot from the website. There are currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12, Carly.
That's great. So it'll keep you busy Well, waiting for the periodic updates.
Exactly. A charger cord. I love it.
Oh,
Yes, or my headphone cord, right? Every kid's got to be able to find that in their room. Great. I can't actually see the chat, Carla. So if there's something else in there, let me know.
sure. Yeah. I was just commenting that I really like the cinnamon roll or the ammonite.
Well, science can be delicious, right?
Yeah. And I also like the fact that it sort of hones in on maybe one key aspect, like the release in the bubbles in the gas. You know, trying to make concrete one little scientific principle or
Right.
of iron or whatever it is, which I think is nice.
Right. Yeah. Trying to make it a little bit more relatable for sure.
Well, I want to give anyone else have any other questions? If not, we'll let Annie go, and I'll thank you for attending. Again, these are going to be every other Wednesday. So the next one will be actually, I think, fall into March, if I'm doing my math right. But we'll have more. And I think that the USGS might be back again with something related to water and other data sets. We'll see. Thank you, everyone. And you can always go back and watch previous recordings at our website. So thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Have fun playing. Take care.